Hello and welcome back to Project Utopia. So what are we going to be talking about today? Well, today we're going to be looking at two things. Feminism and Buzzfeed. Now, this is a very big problem that we're going to be discussing. We're going to be looking at a Buzzfeed video about feminism and that, and be looking at what feminism is in general and looking at the problems that it faces and the many different things to do with it. Okay, so here we have a Buzzfeed video. The thing about Buzzfeed is that they do a lot of videos on feminism. Now, they have 38 videos alone on periods. Too many. We're going to be looking at a video here. It's called Women Try Manspreading For A week. Now, the thing about this is, and the thing about Buzzfeed is, it's not really in a comic way. You know, if it was like a parody of, kind of a feminist way and a whole joke about manspreading and whatnot, then I suppose it would have, it'd be funny, and it would have a different message. However, this isn't a joke. This is quite serious, and they take it in quite a serious way. And so we're going to be having a look at it and kind of breaking it down to see what the problems are. So yeah, here we go.
Manspreading is when a man spreads his physical body to take up as much space as humanly possible.
The people around you are relegated to a very small portion, but the key to manspreading is not noticing.
We grow up on two different tracks. People who manspread just are socialized not to worry about it.
I have so many vivid memories as a child of my mum telling me to close my legs.
With gender, we're constantly working towards trying to get to this middle.
This week of manspreading is definitely going to make me feel anxious. As much as a super strong feminist, I want to say it won't.
I kind of secretly hope to annoy some men.
Alright, let's try that. That's the intro. Let's stop it right there. Okay, so we have 3 different women manspreading and that as some sort of... That's the thing. I'm not too sure why they're doing it. I'm not too sure why what the message is behind this. These women are trying manspreading. But one thing they fail to acknowledge with manspreading is why men do it. And yeah, simple answer is, unlike women, we've got genitals that are external. We have balls, and that's the problem. You can't be sitting there with your legs closed because you got balls in the way. And the thing is, right, you got to think, if we were to switch the roles here, what would happen? What would it be like? Okay, if there was a video about men try, I don't know, being on a period for a week, or men try, something about women in this kind of fashion, I don't think it'd be well received. And yet, in some ways, this is accepted because it's women, which isn't right. It's the same with kind of racial and religious kind of ways and sensitivity, in that when you have something like this, you can't say anything through fear of being called names, sexist or racist or something, and it's the exact same thing. But we've got to ask ourselves, what is the message here? And honestly, I don't really know what it is. So
That's my first train trip as a manspreader. I just feel like a monster already. How can you do this every day without being conscious of it?
I just manspread on the bus for maybe a 5-minute ride for the first time, and it wasn't even half full, and I was already getting glared at, so I think this is going to be a kind of long week.
Alright, so that's day 1. What do we get from that? So you see the language that we used, we feel like a monster and that. This is a problem as well. It's the way that you're portraying this, because you're portraying men as monsters, okay? And this is the problem with Buzzfeed in itself, and what it the language it uses and the way it portrays men, alright? Because one thing we have to remember is feminism is about equality. And what this does is this, portrays itself as feminism, but really it's just taking a dig at men, which in itself is, objectifying men and doing the exact thing that they're trying not to do, alright? So we're going to skip forwards a bit, we're going to skip towards the end.
going to a game and they were all desperate for a seat and I was taking up 3 seats and they started talking about personal space. All their eyes were just on me and they were mostly women. If it was a group of dudes, I would have been like, yeah.
I thought that manspreading would kind of give me this air of disregard because I thought that I worried too much about what people think, and I've realized that I worry just enough. You should be concerned with whether or not the people around you are comfortable because that means you're a good community member.
My favorite part of this exercise was easily when I got to sit next to men who were taking up way too much space and just forcefully work my way into the seat and without words say, hey, I deserve to sit here.
Alright. So this is after the week's happened. And so what do we see here? We see some good views and some questionable ones. So it's true about on public transport and that you have to give other people space, you have to be considerate, and that's very true. But it's what the blonde female says, which is a bit questionable, and that's how she kind of used this as a way of kind of power and demasculating other men on the bus or the train. As she said there herself, she takes she found it pleasurable and enjoyable to kind of take up men's space and that. And you know, this is, again, if this was in reversed positions, this would be blasted over the media about how men are, you know, objectifying women. If a man was to come on here and say these things about, oh, I had pleasure in making the women around me uncomfortable and that, it would be awful. And that's one thing that's the problem with this, and one thing that we have to look at in kind of when you look at these types of videos, is that if the roles were reversed, would this be acceptable? And just because it's women talking about men, that doesn't make it right. Because you can't then, you know, allow them to have a free pass of objectifying and destroying men just because they're women. You know, and the reason why you allow this is because if we were to go against it, you know, we'd get heckled for being sexist. And that's not fair.
To be forced to manspread really showed me how up your own ass you have to be as a person to not be conscious of those around you.
To the man that's taking up too much space on a bus, on the plane, on the bench, we see you. You don't need that much room. To the young women out there, I say you should definitely be aware of your surroundings. If there's something that you want, if there's something you want to say, if there's a position that you want to hold, take up that space. You deserve that space.
Girl, you take.
Okay. So, there's two things that come out from this, and that's one, which is this female. This female here. I don't know her name. Basically, she's very, she kind of represents what I suppose the new age of feminism is, and with the very big problem with Buzzfeed and feminism, because the way that she portrays this is in a way that men are monsters, that they're awful. You know, how she says, how far up your own arse can you be to ignore everybody around you? And I mean, that's very aggressive language towards men, and this is the big issue that I have with Buzzfeed. Okay, so this is the problem with Buzzfeed, right, that I have. So we've already talked about the language that they use. They use language like monstrous and how ignorant and how awful you can be to do something like this. But this, I mean, just look at this video in itself, alright? It's women try manspreading for a week. Isn't that just so juvenile? I mean, what is this video trying to gain? Because you would look at something, you know, if we look at our videos that we do, we have messages that try to inspire, that try to invoke emotion and kind of change. But what does this achieve? Women try manspreading for a week. All you're doing is, at that point, is taking a dig at the other sex, which is wrong, and that's subjectification, and that is the very thing that, you know, feminism is trying to get rid of. And, you know, we look as well, is that comments are disabled, and also the like and dislike ratio is disabled. So what they've done here is the very thing that you shouldn't do when you make a video like this, and that's deny people the right to discuss and show their opinions. Alright, they've presented this thing, Women Try Manspreading For A week, but they've disabled the comments, they've disabled the like and dislike, which means we have no way of knowing people's opinions on it. And the idea of freedom of speech, and that which America and which Buzzfeed should uphold, is the idea of seeing the other side's opinions, you know. And clearly, if they put this video up and disabled the likes and dislikes and that, and the comments, there's some degree of insecurity about their own video. Okay, so thank you very much. This is the end of part 1. I hope you enjoyed it when we looked at BuzzFeed and its impact. We have a part 2 coming out shortly, where we'll be again looking at another video and having some more fun, having a look at the way it impacts feminism, and also looking at BuzzFeed in general. So stay tuned for that, and please comment your thoughts and so we can create a massive discussion about BuzzFeed and what it's about, and if it's positive or negative for feminism. So thank you.